Something is falling toward Earth. In minutes, 160 million years of dominance ends. Hadrosaurs graze in the ferns, unaware. Even the light crawling across the sky looks harmless, until you notice it isn't shrinking. It's getting bigger, closer, faster. What would you do in the last hour of an age if nothing looked like it was ending? How does Earth's most dominant dynasty vanish in a single morning? This world has run this way for as long as anything alive can remember. Not for much longer. Hold on to that question. How does a dynasty like this disappear? The answer starts somewhere far weaker, far smaller, and easier to kill. Rewind 250 million years, long before any of this. The planet has just finished dying. The end Permian extinction wiped out most species on Earth. What's left is one brutal supercontinent, Pangaea, baking under a sky with less oxygen than today. Take a breath here, and it wouldn't satisfy you. Heat sits on your skin like a physical weight. Shade is rare. Water is worse. Every animal alive is running on a survival budget with nothing left in reserve. The earliest dinosaurs show up into this mess, and they are not impressive. Small, lightweight, built to run on two legs, nowhere near the top of any food chain, and frequently on the menu themselves. Their one advantage is efficiency. Their limbs sit tucked under the body instead of sprawled to the sides. Less wasted energy, faster growth, in several lineages. It also means early versions of the breathing systems that will later fuel enormous bodies. Picture that same oxygen shortage hitting the modern world. What if the air itself thinned out like this today? Transportation would stall, farms would fail, cities would ration air they never had to think twice about. These small survival tricks would eventually carry animals as heavy as a jumbo jet. But first, something had to clear the field. That took time. The Triassic wasn't a dinosaur world. It was an open tryout, and dinosaurs were nowhere near the favorites. Massive crocodile-line archosaurs ran the show. Leftover mammal relatives held on. Amphibians the size of couches lurked in the shallows. Herrerasaurus, an early dinosaur predator, was fast and lightly built, dangerous but nowhere near dominant. Coelophysis, slender and long-legged, survived on speed alone. Plateosaurus was already stretching its neck and body bigger, a quiet preview of something enormous still to come. Look behind the dry brush. Something moves low in the shadows, and it's not the dinosaur you're watching. Whatever's hunting out here almost certainly isn't a dinosaur, and there's nowhere to hide. Why did these unremarkable animals make it this far? Was dinosaur dominance ever inevitable? Or were they waiting for the rules to change? They changed. Volcanic activity during the Carnian Age disrupted rainfall and vegetation worldwide. And dinosaurs quietly started spreading, while other groups declined. Then the real blow landed, as Pangaea began tearing apart. Colossal eruptions flooded the atmosphere with greenhouse gas. Temperatures spiked. Ocean chemistry buckled. Ecosystems that had stood for millions of years collapsed all at once. It's tempting to imagine dinosaurs muscling their rivals out of the way. That's not what the fossil record shows. They didn't win a fair fight. The planet emptied the field for them. Rain finally hits ground that stayed cracked and dry for generations. The smell hits first. Sharp and mineral, almost electric. Rivers jump their banks. Familiar plants vanish overnight. Somewhere in this wreckage, an opportunity is forming that nothing alive can see. What if the catastrophe tearing your world apart was quietly building the biggest break your descendants would ever get? Feel that? That's not thunder. Feel it in the ground before you hear it. Look up. A neck the height of a building is still rising above the canopy. And it hasn't stopped. A foot the size of a dinner table presses into the mud beside you, and the shock wave reaches your chest a second later. Then another animal appears, and another, until the whole tree line is moving and the ground won't stop shaking. What would survive of a modern highway after a herd like this crossed it? Nobody saw this coming, but here it is. The same small, twitchy survivors that once made it by running away are now the largest land animals in history. Sauropods solved the physics of being enormous. Skeletons riddled with air pockets, air sacs threaded through their bones. Growth rates that put a house cat to shame, necks long enough to clear a feeding zone the size of a swimming pool without moving a step. Some genera, based on partial skeletons, may have approached 40 meters. That's roughly as long as a blue whale, though far lighter. Even the biggest sauropods likely weighed well under half a whale's mass. Picture one wandering into a modern city today, not hunting anyone, just hunting its next 20,000 calories. What if something that size showed up on your street? The weight alone would crush our infrastructure. The real chaos begins the moment it gets hungry. Size like that invites new enemies. Allosaurus hunted in a body built for exactly this. Serrated, blade-like teeth, powerful forelimbs. A skull engineered to take down animals many times its own weight. Stegosaurus answered back, and it was no pushover. A muscular tail tipped with sharpened spikes. Fossilized puncture wounds in Allosaurus bone matched those spikes almost perfectly. Those spikes even earned a nickname, Thagomizer, coined decades ago as a joke in a newspaper comic strip. And somehow it's stuck for good. The animals that once survived the Triassic by staying small and fast had become planet-dominating giants. But the single most important breakthrough of this era wasn't a giant at all. What if it belonged to something small enough to vanish between the branches, somewhere up in that same Jurassic canopy? Feathers were already doing something that had nothing to do with flying. Here's the twist almost nobody expects. What if wings never evolved for flight at all? Evidence increasingly suggests feathers evolved first for insulation, display, and communication, or for keeping eggs warm during brooding. Flight came later, repurposed from parts already there. Archaeopteryx shows the transition frozen mid-motion. Sharp teeth, clawed fingers, a long bony tail, and unmistakable flight feathers, all on the same animal. Watch the branches above you. Something feathered shifts its weight, hesitates, jumps, and for one impossible second, it doesn't fall. Would you call that a bird or a dinosaur? Hold on to that question. While the giants kept getting bigger, something much smaller was quietly building an emergency exit for 60 million years down the road. Fast forward into the Cretaceous, and the ecosystem sharpens into an actual arms race. Continents drift apart, splitting regional food chains from each other. Flowering plants spread fast, and herbivores get better at using them. Hadrosaurs pack rows of grinding teeth into dental batteries that process tons of vegetation a day. They move in herds, possibly signaling through elaborate hollow head crests. Triceratops answers a different threat entirely. 3 feet of solid horn on a skull, built like a battering ram. A healthy adult was never an easy meal, and predators evolved to match. Out near the rivers, one predator went a different direction entirely. Spinosaurus hunts with a crocodile-like snout full of cone-shaped teeth, built for a food source most land predators never bothered competing for: fish. Paleontologists still argue over exactly how much time it spent submerged. Nobody disputes it lived on the water's edge, dodging the competition instead of fighting it head-on. Back on land, the real escalation is happening in a size class most people picture wrong. Velociraptor was feathered and roughly turkey-sized, about as threatening as an angry goose with better teeth. The movies owe you an apology on that one. Utahraptor was the version that removed the joke. Nearly 7 meters of feathered, sickle-clawed predator. T-Rex closes the arms race out at the top. A skull built to crush bone outright. A bite among the strongest ever measured in any land animal. Senses sharp enough to track prey it can't even see yet. What if something with the mass of a delivery truck could sense you before you noticed it was there? That movement beside the ferns is too low to the ground to be T-Rex. Your pulse spikes before your brain catches up. The smaller thing might be harder to spot, and it might already be closer. Listen, the forest just went quiet, and quiet is worse. Dinosaurs had spent tens of millions of years evolving an answer for nearly every threat inside their world. The next threat wasn't coming from inside. Return to that same floodplain. T-Rex, Triceratops, the hadrosaur herds, the birds in the branches, all of it still thriving. Nothing here suggesting collapse. The light in the sky is back. Except it's no longer distant. It stopped looking like a star and started looking like a problem. Nothing here has ever needed to recognize a danger like this before. Why would it start now? The Chicxulub impactor slams into what's now Mexico's Yucatan, carrying more energy than every nuclear weapon on Earth combined, many times over. The flash blinds anything facing it, your eyes included. The ground moves before the sound arrives. You feel it in your teeth first. Trees around you snap and fold flat. Shockwaves flatten forests for hundreds of miles. Mega tsunamis scour coastlines on the far side of oceans. Superheated rock rains back down, and the air itself starts to catch fire. You survive that first minute. What happens next is worse. Dust and sulfur choke out sunlight for months, maybe years. Photosynthesis stalls. Plants die back across the planet. Herbivores starve first, then the predators that depended on them. The food web fails from the bottom, everywhere, all at once. What if you outran the fire and the blast, only to watch the sun effectively disappear? What if the exact same collapse started today? Could any amount of technology keep global agriculture running through years without reliable sunlight? This crisis differed from everything dinosaurs had already survived in speed and scale. It struck in an instant, hit the whole planet at once, and collapsed multiple links of the food chain simultaneously. Big animals need enormous food just to survive, and specialized predators depended entirely on large prey that was already vanishing. Evolution runs on generations, and this crisis left room for none. T-Rex could crush bone. Triceratops could stand its ground against almost anything. Sauropods could migrate across continents to find food. None of it mattered against a sky that had stopped delivering sunlight. And yet the story doesn't fully end there. Every non-avian dinosaur was gone, but one branch survived. The small, feathered lineage that had already been perfecting flight for millions of years. Smaller bodies needed less food. Flexible diets meant they could survive on whatever scraps were left, including dormant seeds. Mobility meant they could search further for whatever remained. That's the escape route this story promised back in the Jurassic canopy. And here's the payoff. Those small feathered survivors weren't a footnote to Dinosauria. They were its continuation. Birds didn't simply descend from dinosaurs the way you descended from a great-great-grandparent. Birds are dinosaurs, full stop. They still fill the same ecological role their ancestors filled, just smaller, toothless, and considerably more interested in your bird feeder. So here's the answer this story opened with. Dinosaurs didn't lose because they were weak. They dominated Earth for over 160 million years, survived multiple mass extinctions, and out-adapted almost everything around them. They lost because one morning demanded a speed evolution was never built to deliver. Look outside right now. There's a decent chance one of them is on a fence post a few feet away, completely unbothered by any of this. If that changes how you see the next bird outside your window, that's the point of telling this story. Like this video and subscribe. There's a lot more buried in Earth's prehistoric past, still worth digging back up.